Good Friday, everyone. I'm Cyrus Webb, and welcome to Conversation Daily News. Glad you all could be with us. Well, we made it to the end of another week. We, of course, have your news headlines coming up on this Friday. We have a message from my book, Words I Choose to Live By, and in today's Entertainment Spotlight, before my conversation with Dr. Teresa A. Smith, or Dr. Taz, discussing her new book, Transform with Taz Healthy Recipes. You don't want to miss that. Enjoy today's broadcast. For Conversation Daily News, I'm Cyrus Webb with your Friday headlines. In international news, Russia withdrawing, Ukrainian officials fear city of death. Russia said it began withdrawing troops from a strategic Ukrainian city on Thursday, creating a potential turning point in the grinding war, while Ukrainian official warns that Russian landmines could render Kherson a city of death. Ukrainian officials acknowledged Moscow's forces had no choice but to flee Kherson, yet they remained cautious, fearing an ambush. With Ukrainian officials tight-lipped with their assessments, reporters not present, and spotty communications, it was difficult to know what was happening in the port city, where the residents who remained after tens of thousands fled were afraid to leave their homes. A forced pullout from Kherson, the only provincial capital Moscow had captured after invading Ukraine, would mark one of Russia's worst setbacks in the war. Recapturing the city, whose pre-war population was 280,000, could provide Ukraine a launching pad for supplies and troops to try to win back other lost territory in the south, including Crimea, which Moscow seized in 2014. Ukrainian forces seem to be scoring more battlefield successes elsewhere in the Kherson region. The Armed Forces Commander-in-Chief said Kyiv's forces have advanced 36 kilometers or 23 miles and retaken 41 villages and towns since October the 1st in the province, which the Kremlin has illegally annexed. That included 12 settlements on Wednesday alone. A Ukrainian presidential advisor said the Russian troops laid mines throughout Kherson as they withdrew to turn it into a city of death, and predicted they would shell it from occupied areas across the Dnieper River. From these new positions, the Kremlin could try to escalate the 8.5-month war, which U.S. assessments showed may already have killed or wounded tens of thousands of civilians and hundreds of thousands of soldiers. The Russian defense minister ordered a troop withdrawal from Kherson and nearby areas on Wednesday after his top general in Ukraine reported that a loss of supply routes during Ukraine's southern counteroffensive made the defense futile. On Thursday, Ukrainian officials appeared to soften the skepticism they had expressed over whether the Russians were really on the run or trying to trap Ukraine's soldiers. In national news, Tropical Storm Nicole topples beachfront homes into ocean. Tropical Storm Nicole sent multiple homes toppling into the Atlantic Ocean on Thursday and threatened a row of high-rise condominiums in places where Hurricane Ian washed away the beach and destroyed seawalls only weeks ago. Officials said they didn't know when residents could safely return to their homes in the Barrier Island communities. The Homeowners Association at the Marbella condominiums in Daytona Beach shores had just spent $240,000 to temporarily rebuild the seawall Ian destroyed in September. Nicole was sprawling, covering nearly the entire weather-weary state of Florida, while also reaching into Georgia and the Carolinas before dawn on Thursday. Tropical storm force winds extended as far as 450 miles from the center in some directions as Nicole turned northward over central Florida. In more national news, Alex Jones ordered to pay $473 million more to Sandy Hook families. InfoWars host Alex Jones and his company were ordered by a judge Thursday to pay an extra $473 million for promoting false conspiracy theories about the Sandy Hook school massacre, bringing the total judgment against him in a lawsuit filed by the victims' families to a staggering $1.44 billion. The judge imposed the punitive damages on the InfoWars host and free speech's system. Jones repeatedly told his millions of followers the massacre that killed 20 first graders and 6 educators was staged by crisis actors to enact more gun control. A lawyer for the Sandy Hook family said he hopes the award sends a message to conspiracy theorists who profit from lies. In business news, Musk ends remote work at Twitter, warns of troubles ahead. Elon Musk has emailed Twitter employees, most working remotely, ordering them to return to the office immediately for at least 40 hours a week and warning of difficult times ahead. A pair of Wednesday night missives seen by the Associated Press marked Musk's first company-wide message to employees who survived last week's mass layoffs. Many have had to rely on the billionaire Tesla CEO's public tweets for clues about Twitter's future. Sorry that this is my first email to the whole company, but there's no way to sugarcoat the message, wrote Musk before he described a dire economic climate for businesses like Twitter that rely almost entirely on advertising to make money. Without significant subscription revenue, there's a good chance Twitter will not survive the upcoming economic downturn, Musk said. We need roughly half of our revenue to be subscription. And finally, in more business news, Wall Street surges, Dow up 1,200 points on cooling inflation. Wall Street surged to its best day since April 2020 as markets cheered a government report that inflation cooled more than expected last month. The S&P 500 jumped 5.5% on Thursday, and the Dow rose nearly 1,200 points as traders took the data as a sign the worst of inflation may have passed. Cyrus Webb, Conversations Daily News. It's time for a message from my book, Words I Choose to Live By. Enjoy. Good Friday, everyone. I'm Cyrus Webb, and welcome to Words I Choose to Live By. It is less important where in the world you serve, and much more important how and who you serve. That is what makes the difference. Have an amazing Friday and enjoy your weekend. Dr. Teresa A. Smith is featured in today's Entertainment Spotlight. We're here on Conversation Daily News. For Conversation Daily News, I'm Cyrus Webb with Entertainment Spotlight. Author and motivational speaker Dr. Teresa A. Smith, or Dr. Tosh, joined me on Conversations Live, the radio show, to talk about the release of her brand new cookbook, Transform with Tosh Healthy Recipes. Here's a bit of our conversation.
It's an interesting thing, Tosh, for you because this is not your first book. This is technically your fourth book, but as I mentioned, it is your first cookbook. So I want to talk about that. I mean, if I had told you, because I want to say to our audience, this was not planned for Tosh for 2022. She had not, when she and I had a conversation, I mean, it does not seem like it, Tosh, and you can correct me on this, that a cookbook was what you planned for this year. But what was it like for you to, in 2021, kind of introduce your love of cooking, and now to be able to end this year with your very first cookbook?
Cyrus, it is amazing. You know, you're right. This was not the next project to be released. The next project obviously is not being released this moment. But this, you know, we talked about it, and I said, you know, I really love cooking. And, you know, I released in the spring of this year my Transform with Cooking Live on Instagram, and it's like I want to share those recipes. I want folks to know what goes through my mind as I come up with my recipes. So for those who don't know, I take the really good food that we like to eat and I try to shift it to a healthier version. And so I just love that. And then to see that this book is being recognized. And you know better than anyone that I really had a hard labor. My labor, you know, we talk about, because I'm a Christian, so, you know, we talk about birthing something. I had hard labor for this book. It was a hard labor. And then to see this, I'm like, okay, I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. So for me, it is the confirmation, because nothing comes easy. You know, we have to birth it, and sometimes that birthing can be kind of troubling.
Cyrus Webb, Conversations Daily News. We thank you all for tuning into this edition of Conversations Daily News. Be back with you guys on Monday with more news, message from my book, Words I Choose to Live By, and of course your Entertainment Spotlight. Until then, I'm your host, Cyrus Webb, saying as always, enjoy your day, enjoy your life, enjoy your world. Thank you all for choosing Conversations Daily News today. Now let's go make it a great one.